It's 106 on Talk Radio 790 KABC. You're listening to The John Phillips Show. Johnny's on vacation. He's back on Monday. So it's Randy Wang flying solo, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studio. It is the Fix California Hour. To join us, the phone number is 800-222-KABC. The email is johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And the social media is mine, Twitter. And Instagram, Randy Wang Radio. Give me a follow, and you can see my food pictures. Well, we've been talking a lot about the concept of harm reduction over the last few weeks, whether it be the passing out of meth pipes in Skid Row, the needle programs in Santa Monica, or the full-blown safe consumption site linkage center total failure in San Francisco. I'm sure a lot of people were shocked to find out this week that these programs are slowly starting to make their way down to San Diego County, home of America's finest city. And there is actually pushback down there. There are quite a few politicians who do not want this nonsense in their county. And one of them is San Diego County Supervisor of District 5, Jim Desmond. Welcome to Talk Radio 790 KABC.
Hey, Randy. Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Supervisor Desmond, if you could explain to the audience, what is the program that is funded from the state that is trying to make its way down to your county?
Well, unfortunately, in 2021, our Board of Supervisors, the county supervisors, voted 3-2 to allow these harm reduction programs to be initiated in San Diego County. And the state is providing the dollars, and so here we are. It includes the sterile syringes, naloxone, which is okay, fentanyl test strips, all right, condoms, but safe smoking supplies and meth pipes and things like that, I think is just horrendous to be giving out. And so myself and a bunch of mayors and council members from North County, San Diego, said, not in our towns, not in our district. And so actually we were able to get the county to agree to only, to work with the cities and find out, okay, what's offensive to the different cities in North County, and we'll accommodate those requests. So we did make some headway there. We just think this normalizes and enables more and more drug use. 60 to 80% of the people that are homeless are addicted to drugs. We need to get them into treatment, not enabling their addictions.
Well, and then whenever you have advocates of these kind of programs, they love to tout them as evidence-based solutions. But we've had these needle exchanges and specifically the meth pipe passing out programs here in Los Angeles, where our county is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on these nonprofits for these programs. And our problem gets worse and worse and worse every single year. So where is the evidence that they do work?
Yeah, well, I think there's much more compelling evidence they don't. Look at Seattle. Look at San Francisco. Look at Oakland. Look at these places. This just doesn't work. We got to deal with mental health. We got to deal with addiction, and not just normalize it and enable it. I don't know where they're getting this evidence based. I mean, but if you had a child or you had someone that you needed to get into help, would you send them to some place that just gives them clean needles and clean pipes, or would you get them to some place that would help get them clean and sober? That's what society has to grapple with. And I and several others in North County, San Diego say, not here. No, thank you. We need more help toward mental health and safe and sober living.
We just played sound of one of our county supervisors, Lindsay Horvath, in the San Fernando Valley, explained that we need both. We need to have sobriety, but also harm reduction. But, Supervisor, I'm sure you would agree, if you have both of those, chances are the person that's facing drug addiction is going to take the one that allows them to keep doing the drugs.
Yeah, we got to draw a line. I mean, we've had this homeless problem in the state for way too long. And there's not really a handful. We have, several thousands people homeless in San Diego County, but we got to start reaching out to people and get them in the right frame of mind. I actually talked with somebody who made it through the system, who got out. And what they told me was, when you're high, all you're doing is thinking about the next high and how you can keep that buzz going. And you're willing to lie, steal from your mother, from your father, from your grandmother. You're willing to do all of those things to keep that buzz going. And then once they get off, the person who had made it through, he said, once I got sober, I was able to have, better thoughts and living a healthier life instead of just constantly looking for the next high. And here we have government enabling that practice.
And, some of this stuff has been going on for years, but I wasn't aware of something like passing up the pipes till we had a local news report expose that just a few weeks ago. Now we're seeing it go to San Diego. But I would assume many, many, many Californians have no idea that there are state-funded plans to spend money on glass pipes for drug addicts.
Yeah, how about fixing our roads or bridges and things like that instead of giving our tax dollars to drug addicts? And I think we all want to do the right thing, and we all got to be compassionate, and we want to get these people into help. We need to be able to get them into the mental health treatment they need. And that's really what it comes down to, and that's what, unfortunately, many politicians are afraid to admit or afraid to do. Because we're going to have to do it in many cases involuntarily to get people sobered up so they can make better decisions. And that's really what it's come down to. And unfortunately, Sacramento and the people we put there are not helping us. They're hurting us.
No, and we've seen the problem get monumentally worse over the last decade. How much of this problem would you attribute to things like Prop 47 destroying the drug court system and making possession of any of these drugs back down to a misdemeanor where nothing happens? You barely get a ticket if you're doing this, which has led to the open-air drug markets.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is just part of the bigger problem. And also, the state of California has actually – they have released, if you really look back a few years ago when this homeless problem started, it's when the state of California started emptying out the jails. And they let out all the, the low offender drug users and things like that. And they're out onto our streets with no help, no programs, no chance of success. And they're also letting out these state hospitals, state mental hospitals, or psychiatric hospitals. That's why we're getting sexually violent predators set into our neighborhoods. So the state is actually just pushing this problem onto the cities, onto the counties, and then they're tying our hands on what we can do about it with things like Housing First, which allows housing but still allows drug and alcohol use. This is just a revolving door that we got to wake up to and make some changes.
Yeah, you're 100% right. At the state level, they're constantly saying housing first, housing first, housing first. We've got to build more housing, build more housing, build more housing without worrying about what you do with the person once you put them in the house.
Well, and you cannot mandate. The city of San Diego is buying three hotels to put the homeless people in, which is fine. Great. There's a roof over their head. They're better than being on the streets. But there's no requirement. Matter of fact, since it's state money from the state, you cannot require that these people get into treatment. You cannot evict them if they're using drugs and alcohol. So if you put that kind of a mix into a facility or a hotel or wherever, where you've got some people using, some people trying to get off, it just turns into a big mess, and then the neighborhood starts to deteriorate. We got to have some rules, and unfortunately, that's or accountable housing. I've heard that term. Let's have accountable housing where people have to take care of it. And they can't be using drugs and alcohol.
Well, and it's
unfortunately then you don't qualify for money if you require those things.
Well, in the programs that we got now that you just highlighted, they can turn into a financial disaster. We've saw with quite a few Project Room Key sites in San Francisco through COVID, the destruction that was caused in those hotel rooms. The city of San Francisco's on the hook for millions of dollars. Yeah,
and it ruins neighborhoods. It's just we got to wake up, folks, and do the right thing. So I was really happy that, it was myself and several mayors and council members from communities in North County, San Diego, separate from the city of San Diego. It seems that they're going to probably just go ahead with this harm reduction. And then you got kids walking to school, and they're stepping over needles and things like that, which is it's just a disaster. And I don't know why, but we keep tiptoeing around how to fix homelessness with these silly programs that make people feel good about themselves, but not really solve the problem.
We're speaking to San Diego County Supervisor Jim Desmond. His website, supervisorjimdesmond.com. In fact, he has a petition for any of our listeners that have friends and families in San Diego to make sure that these kind of harm reduction programs do not come to San Diego County. Now, Supervisor Desmond, another problem that I've noticed that's been going on in San Diego County the last couple of months that's been reported on the local news is that the state is going incredibly aggressive on all of these building housing mandates, building more affordable housing, which obviously we do need, and there's a housing shortage, and we need to be building. But one of the things that the state is not requiring is that when you build these massive apartment buildings, you have parking spaces for all the cars that are going to go in there because they assume everyone's going to be riding public transit, even in places that makes absolutely no sense. And we're starting to see parking become an absolute nightmare in some of the cities in your county because there's all these people that have apartments and nowhere to put their car.
Yeah, the assumption that they're going to get everybody on mass transit is just crazy. I mean, you can't have a job, and expect to be using mass transit, or if you're a family and you have kids and you need to get anywhere, it's another crazy idea that, like I say, it's more of a political idea than a real solution. I think it makes politicians look like, oh, look, we're building all this housing over here, but even affordable housing is not attainable by somebody who just got off the streets or who's somebody who really is unemployable. We need actually more transitional type housing, or, if we do reach somebody who's willing to get off the streets, who's willing to get clean and sober, we don't have housing for them. They can't afford affordable housing. We need kind of that bridge housing to get these people into, board and cares or something, because otherwise we just have this revolving door. But you're right. By not having parking requirements, and the state is making it by right, I think within a half a mile of a transit stop, that developers can build apartment buildings or housing that doesn't have the parking requirements that you would normally have, and it's just turning our neighborhoods into shambles.
We're speaking with San Diego County Supervisor Jim Desmond. Now, Supervisor Desmond, your entire board was rocked earlier this year with the scandal of now former Supervisor Nathan Fletcher, who all of a sudden, out of the blue, decided he needed to go to rehab and then resign as a story came out of sexual harassment on the MTS, where he was harassing an employee for months and months and months. I wonder if you have any reaction to the newest story that has come out where Nathan Fletcher's accuser in that case has alleged that MTS offered her $10,000 to keep quiet about what Nathan Fletcher was doing.
It doesn't surprise me at all. This is just, unfortunately, Mr. Fletcher just, screwed up royally and should not have, he actually carried out these acts on the MTS, the Metropolitan Transit System, on their property. So this is just uglier and uglier. And unfortunately, it's kind of a black eye for the citizens of San Diego County. Now we're a 2-2 board. So quite frankly, to be honest with you, even though we can't get away from things like the harm reduction and stuff like that, we've been able to kind of keep the crazy stuff away. And by having a 2-2 board, we're getting more of the function of the county, just the regular work just done, I think, a lot easier, a lot smoother. But there's going to be a new election to replace him. And, the allegations are just going to keep flying. And unfortunately, this is what happens when you misbehave as a county elected official. You try to set the example, and the example you're setting is, in this case, the worst example possible. We're all trained. You can't have sexual relations with a subordinate, and that's exactly what he did.
And now he's going to be dealing with that for the rest of his life. Jim Desmond, San Diego County Supervisor. You can get him on Twitter at Jim_Desmond, supervisorjimdesmond.com. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Randy, thanks, for the pertinent topics and keeping people's focus on what's really happening and contact their representatives and make some change.
That's what we do here. Thanks so much for coming on. And, of course, if you ever want to download a podcast of this show, you go to Johnny Don't Like Show. You go to KABC.com, click on podcasts. You go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes at about 2:01. I'll post our interview we just had with San Diego County Supervisor Jim Desmond, where he said this, among other things.
And now we're a 2-2 board. So, quite frankly, to be honest with you.
So make sure you download that podcast. We've been talking a lot about how the pendulum is starting to swing the other direction in the city of San Francisco. That's why San Francisco does things a little sooner than we do them. We've seen them at their worst. We're still going down that path. They recalled their district attorney. They are now finally arresting people for the open-air drug market. And look at this, an arrest and a charge of a serial burglar that could possibly put a jackass away for quite some time. For more, here's Cron 4. That rhymed.
The San Francisco man is behind bars tonight. He's accused of committing 18 burglaries in less than a year. Police say 29-year-old Patrick Potter went on a
This guy's got burglaring as his full-time job.
Police say 29-year-old Patrick Potter went on a rampage. Cron 4's Rob Nesbitt has the story.
Police say Patrick Potter was arrested at an Oakland hotel, but his crimes were committed in 4 different areas of San Francisco, including the Richmond and Mission districts.
This person is prolific.
At Wednesday's press conference, San Francisco Police Chief Bill Scott announced the arrest of 29-year-old Patrick Potter, while District Attorney Brooke Jenkins listed the many charges. According to Chief Scott, Potter is considered a serial burglar, repeating his crimes again and again.
This case involves community centers, businesses, homes, and vehicles.
What are you getting out of a community center?
That were ransacked.
I guess if you've robbed everything else, that's all that's left.
That were ransacked and tens of thousands of dollars in cash and property taken.
Thousands of dollars in property damage were also reported to police. The DA's office has charged the 29-year-old with 29 counts, including commercial, residential, and auto burglary.
Imagine the charges he would have gotten if Chesa Boudin was still there. See, things can change.
The DA's office has charged the 29-year-old with 29 counts, including commercial, residential, and auto burglary. He faces up to 25 years in prison if found guilty.
And assure the city of San Francisco that my office will.
I mean, the judge is never going to give him 25 years. And as long as these are nonviolent, we have the strong possibility that what happens to this guy is the same thing that happened to the guy in San Bernardino County, where you plead guilty, and then because of AB 109, your prison sentence gets kicked down to the jails. Oh, jails are overcrowded. We put you out on the street.
And assure the city of San Francisco that my office will make sure that Mr. Potter faces true accountability and consequences for his actions as this case moves through the system.
Chief Scott says in cases like this, the motive is usually to make a profit off the stolen items, recognizing that there are other burglary and robbery investigations his department is working to solve.
These include attacks in the Noe Valley and recent burglaries in the Union Square district, the shopping district of Union Square.
The police.
You know, I wonder if we have somebody. I know budgets are thin, but do we have somebody on every police department, whether it's LAPD, FSFPD, the county sheriffs, that are just looking through eBay profiles? Because I'm sure we could track down some of these jackasses selling stolen goods.
The Union Square district, the shopping district of Union Square.
The police chief and district attorney are using Potter's arrest as an example to deter others from committing similar crimes.
These kinds of crimes are unacceptable. Let me be clear about that. They're unacceptable in our city, and anyone who thinks that it's okay to victimize people in this way must learn that they will be arrested and held accountable.
Potter is being held without bail, and his preliminary hearing is scheduled for July 25th.
There's another thing that's incredibly important, and it's sometimes hard for the judges to agree, but the prosecutor can ask, even we're in this cashless bail nonsense, the prosecutor can ask no bail because we know if this guy gets out before his trial, he's going to steal again. And the fact that you have a strong prosecutor is a huge deal. Speaking of strong prosecutors, in the 2 o'clock hour, we're going to have John Hatami, who's running against your favorite, George Gascon, in the 2024 election.
We got some wobbly knees allies.
We'll get his response to George Gascon's nonsense and Pamela Price's insanity. It is the Fix California Hour. We cover all kinds of issues in the Fix California Hour locally and, of course, in the state of California. It's time for us to introduce you, though, to a new character joining the LA City Council. She just won in a runoff election where 10% of the electorate voted in Council District 6 to replace our favorite, Nuri Martinez.
Why are people with us?
Her name is Imelda Padilla, and she will be sworn in August when the City Council gets back from their break. And she sat down with Alex Michelson and Marla Tejas over at Fox 11 to introduce herself to you, the Los Angeles constituent. And let's not forget, even if you don't live in Lake Balboa, Van Nuys, Arleta, and Sun Valley, whatever any member of the city council does in any district will affect you.
You know, you can't get well in a cell.
Like her. Let's hear from Imelda herself, asking a very pertinent question. Hey, you're replacing Nuri Martinez, who had to resign in shame because of that corrupt, racist dealings that she was doing with Kevin De Leon and Gil Cedillo at the Union Hall. Didn't you used to work for her?
2 weeks ago, Imelda Padilla was sworn in as a temporary voting member of the LA City Council, representing Council District 6. This after winning June's special election to replace former City Council President Nuri Martinez, who resigned last year in the fall in the wake of that leaked racist audio that shook City Hall. For more on her first 2 weeks on the job, that was exactly 2 weeks ago today, and what lies ahead when she's officially sworn in next month, we are joined by City Council member Imelda Padilla. Council member, it's nice to meet you. Thanks for coming into studio tonight. Congratulations on your victory. I first want to just get your thoughts on what it means for you to be in this seat, specifically Nuri Martinez's seat, who you worked for a short time, about 10 years ago.
Well, being in the seat now means that the residents of Sun Valley, Arleta, Panorama City, Van Nuys, Lake Balboa.
That's a weirdly cut up district. And also the residents of Lake Balboa must be a little confused. I guess they got to have one part of that has good property values.
North Hollywood and North Hills now have a representative that can push and voice their concerns at the City Hall level. And I'm excited to build out a team to help us get that those communities serviced. And in terms of, my experience with this team and this office in the field deputy capacity, I think is only a positive one, because when I was there, I'm very proud of the work that I did while I was there.
Very proud of working for Nuri Martinez. What kind of racist things did you say to you in the back room?
Hosted multiple community cleanups, an art fair on Blythe and Van Nuys Boulevard at a local park. And I also, played a role in fixing up one of the libraries. So if I was able to do good things as a field deputy, I'm excited to, do bigger and better things now in this capacity.
Did she just rhyme? Wow. Not even fully sworn into the city council, and she's going full Garcetti.
I love to rhyme.
So if I was able to do good things as a field deputy, I'm excited to, do bigger and better things now in this capacity.
It's not Karen Bass level.
If you're feeling down, if you're feeling blue, let's get help for you.
But it's better than this jackass.
Just be smart and stay apart.
Alex Michelson's turn to ask a question. How do you restore trust in a city council that is now in its fourth member facing corruption charges in just the last 5 years?
All right, so there's a lot of mistrust of city council after 4 different council members in recent years ended up facing criminal charges, on top of the fact that your predecessor had to resign because she was so embarrassed that her racist tirade ended up becoming international news.
When she was in the back room illegally redistricting the county?
How do you make people believe in government, believe in the institution, and believe that it can get things done for them?
Considering 90% of the electorate in Council District 6 didn't vote, it's an uphill battle, I'll tell you that.
Well, for myself, I think the first thing that I need to do is engage as much as possible in transparency.
Okay, so far she said nothing. We're keeping track of all the nonsensical cliches.
And I talked about this on the campaign trail, is that one of the things that I want to do is be accessible.
Okay, 2 things that mean nothing.
To my constituents. That is a way to build out the trust. And, in terms of the capacities inside the building, is be a coalition builder.
That also means nothing. Keep going.
And regardless of whether people supported me or not start the relationships from that space, but instead working together to really view ourselves as a city and not 15 different districts.
Okay, then. That was a bucket full of political cliches, which she's brand new to this, so congratulations. She caught on early. Didn't answer the question at all. Didn't want to talk about corruption. Let's play that for you in its entirety, because this is 37 seconds of someone saying absolutely nothing. Oh, wait, 25 seconds of somebody saying some absolutely nothing. This is incredible. For such an inexperienced politician, this is almost Kamala level.
Well, for myself, I think the first thing that I need to do is engage as much as possible in transparency. And I talked about this on the campaign trail, is that one of the things that I want to do is be accessible to my constituents. That is a way to build out the trust. And, in terms of the capacities inside the building, is be a coalition builder. And regardless of whether people supported me or not start the relationships from that space, but instead working together to really view ourselves as a city and not 15 different districts.
Okay, then. Well, if she wants to be accessible to her constituents, we hear everybody say that when they get elected, and then as soon as they are elected, well, they don't take meetings with their constituents. They won't answer the phone. They send out a staffer. That's not the same thing. So we'll find out very quickly if she wants to honor that promise, or she's going to become like Council District neighbor Monica Rodriguez, ignoring the complaints of citizens forever about that massive RV destruction encampment in Sylmar behind the woman's house, where she blames the media. We'll get to that story later. But let's go back to Marla asking, okay, Imelda, you're now in charge of the city council in Council District 6. Van Nuys has a lot of bums. What do we do about them?
One of the reasons that people don't have trust is because, and this is getting to the issues now, like homelessness and crime, is because there's been so much money, specifically to the homeless crisis, thrown at it. Billions of dollars, yet it's only gotten worse. So how does your approach differ from what's been done in the past, where we will see results?
Well, one of the things that's very different with me, both from my predecessor and other members of the council, is that I'm someone who has experience working both at the city council, at the city level, but also the county level.
Yeah, that actually doesn't set you apart, because you have plenty of people in the city council who all used to work at the state. It's a revolving door of hacks.
And I plan to bring it.
In fact, we just had a member of the city council who was a member of the board of supervisors, and now he's awaiting sentencing for being a corrupt hack. Mark Ridley Thomas. So having experience at the county and the city level doesn't mean anything.
And I plan to bring a more intentional intergovernmental approach. It's been very refreshing to see our Mayor Bass already start that out. And I'm excited.
Yeah, how's that working out? The number's still going up, huh?
And I'm excited to be a champion with her, to bring in my personal contacts and professional contacts that I made in my time at the county to really utilize that.
All right, how many homeless charities is she friends with that we're going to spend county money to pass out needles in Van Nuys? Arlita, it's happening.
My personal contacts and professional contacts that I made in my time at the county to really utilize that to brainstorm and really work on, figuring out how we can address the homeless crisis. But, I've been very vocal about how homeless is not the same in all parts of Los Angeles. I'm very excited to see that there's been more attention on the RV component.
Okay. Maybe there's something here. RV problem is definitely something that's very visible in the district that I live in. I've told you plenty about Haskell in between Van Owen and Victory, where you get on the 405 freeway and off the 405 freeway, and the line of RVs that are chop shops and meth depots that nothing ever seems to get done about.
To the homeless crisis since I launched my campaign, because sentence number 1 on my website was, we have to do something about the RVs and the fact that so many people...
When she says do something, does she mean get rid of them? I sure hope so.
That were in RVs and living in their vehicles came to districts like mine, where we have a lot of industrial zoning. And, while it might sound great to, just push them...
Actually, that RV encampment, the one that I'm talking about, that's across from apartment buildings next to the freeway. But okay, let's keep going.
Great to, just push them out of residential and into industrial communities like mine. You have housing next to industrial. So technically what you did in allowing people to live in their vehicles in the industrial zone is place them in a location where some of these homes are owned by minorities. We're a community where owning our home is part of building out our generational wealth, but yet the city of Los Angeles pushed out, people that they don't want to see to my district.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's juicy. I'd love to hear some more information about this. We're trying to get this woman on the show. And that would be the first question I ask. You just alleged on Fox 11 that different parts of the city, whether it's city council members or the mayor or who knows, have been pushing all the RVs to the district that had no representation for 6 months. What's that about?
Yeah.
So I'm ready to really take on the situation and how we take on the specifics of people living in RVs, but also being very intentional about working with the county.
Well, hey, that rhymed too.
Take on the situation and how we take on the specifics of people living in RVs, but also being very intentional about working with the county.
Well, obviously, you have your work cut out for you.
Yes.
And just 2 weeks on the job, and you'll be officially sworn in next month. So we'll stay in touch and see how it all plays out.
I will find out on a very ground level if she responds to her constituents because, well, I live there. And I got a lot of friends who have some issues with what's been going on in that part of the district, in that part of Los Angeles, including this idea of doing away with the golf courses. So we'll see what she has to say about all that kind of stuff if she responds to her constituents. Let's start out on a fair plate. Let's wish her the best. Hopefully she is someone that wants to actually do something about the problems that we face in Van Nuys and Arleta and Panorama City. And, oh, boy, she's got her work cut out for it for sure. Have you been to the Panorama Mall lately where the department store is a Walmart that's 3 stories? That is a wild scene. If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Jeff writes in saying most people did not support Imelda Padilla. However, even fewer people did not support her opponent. 10% turnout. It was pretty bad. And down the line, pretty much the exact same position on every single policy. It was just she used to work for Nuri, and the other girl, Marissa Alcarez, used to work for Curran Price. And Curran Price just got indicted by Gascon. So that's fun. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. You can always email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. If you like social media and you like pictures of food and wine, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Randy Wang Radio. That's Randy Wang Radio. And, of course, you can download the podcast of this show at KBC.com. Click on podcasts. Go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. It is so easy, you won't be able to believe it.
I cannot believe it, quite frankly.
I've been watching a lot of Fran Drescher lately. Not old episodes of The Nanny. No, she did an hour-long sit-down with Bernie talking about the strike. And when she gets animated and she starts talking about medieval days and feudal England, I am here for it. She gets so incredibly animated and starts talking about the craziest things.
And they are acting like punishing feudal land barons where the peasants started to act up. And they said, we're not going to talk to you.
I love her. Coming up at 2 o'clock, John Hatami, LA County Deputy District Attorney, and a man who is running to replace George Gascon in the 2024 election. He will join us. It's the John Phillips Show. It's Randy Wang here on KBC.
And you're trying to screw us as if you're like a land baron of feudal medieval times, and we're your serfs. You know, it's like, wake up and smell the coffee. The jig is up.